Hello, and welcome to How to Play Rex of New Rivin, the prototype. I'll talk more about why I'm making this video at the end, but in any case, here's how you play. First and foremost, to set the scene, this is taking place in the last city in the world, New Rivin, and each of the players acts as a rival gang trying to claim control and become Rex. The game is split into several different rounds called business as usual, which you will perform and throughout the game do different actions, do different things, and eventually one person will claim the crown and become the true Rex of New Rivin. So, business as usual starts off with players taking turns, which in this game are called dirty work. And after you go through your different turns and each of the players have finished all of their dirty work, then you'll check if any player has lost, then if any player has won, then move on to the next round. There are more rounds remaining, and if there are no rounds remaining, then unfortunately there is no Rex of New Rivin. Instead, all the players have tied. Now, as for how players take their turns in this game, pretty simple. Each player has a set of what are called decrees, and starting with the player who has the crown, which is right over here, they will, in turn order, pick one decree that's in front of them and use it and flip it over. So, for example, if I wanted to use Panther's Stealth, then I can move one of my tokens up to 2 territories away. So let's say I want to move one of my henchmen here up to 2 territories away. Let's say move here and then here. Once I've done my decree action, I flip it face down, and that's my turn. Then let's say it's the herd's turn. The herd wants to do an action. Well, they can do the same thing. They go ahead and flip over one of their decrees, then they do the action on it. Place 2 henchmen from your supply into a territory your tokens occupy. The herd occupies 2 locations currently. Right over here, this is their henchman, and right over here, this is their subordinate. You can tell because they have the subordinate card. So I'm going to go ahead and place 2 herd tokens right onto the gates of heaven, which is what that territory is called. Next, we have the pack. The pack, what they're going to do on their turn, they're just going to flip over a decree. You do not have to actually use the action of the decree on your turn, but you do have to flip over 1 decree per turn. You can't flip over more, you can't flip over less. You have to flip over exactly 1 decree per turn, and you may use its action if you would like. Now, on your turn, you'll also have access to what are called passive cards. Passive cards have passive effects that are constant and do something that you're able to do that sets you apart from other players. For example, the Pride is able to, if they would like, skip doing dirty work. Instead of flipping over their decrees, they can just skip it altogether, but they can only do it, as you can see, if they are the current Rex. And there are various different passive abilities in the game that do various different things that allow you to bend and break the rules a bit. Another thing that you have are subordinates. Subordinates act like passive abilities, but they are also on the board. They have a presence. So for example, the Pride has access to Alaka-Caster. And Alaka-Caster is of course this subordinate right here. And their special ability is like a passive ability. You're able to use it, activate it, or just keep it in the background if you would like. Now, in addition to that, some passive abilities also have special activatable effects. So if they do have an activatable effect, you're only able to activate 1 passive ability per turn. And if they have what's called an overclock effect, you're only able to use that overclock ability once per round, meaning that you can just turn it sideways or just make sure that you remember that you've used it for that round. And if you have, then you're not able to use that overclock effect again. Note that these aren't decrees, so you wouldn't flip them over when you use them. There are also various black market cards you might have noticed on the side. Some decrees will allow you to buy and purchase these different black market cards. When you buy one, you take it and you put it in front of you, whether it be a decree, a subordinate, or any other type, and you just immediately replace it with a new one from the deck. Now, if you were to buy a subordinate, then you can place their subordinate token onto any territory on the board. So it's very powerful if you're able to take those. And another thing about subordinates, they don't count as henchmen. Henchmen are your faction-specific tokens, and subordinates, when they are removed from the board for whatever reason, or if you lose possession of their card, then the other will be lost as well. So, for example, if Yorn Hellraiser is removed from the game, then so is this card, and they are treated as pretty much the same. If I were to trade this card with the herd, for example, then they would now have access to Yorn Hellraiser, and that's now their subordinate to use. Now, I just mentioned trading, so let's get into that. At any time, you may trade, you may gamble, you may make deals and barter, create auctions with each other at any time you would like. These can be as restricted or unrestricted as you would like. You can make it so that promises are ironclad and upkept, or that they can be easily broken and distrusted, just depending on your play group. Okay, and with all that said, let's move on to the next part of the round. Normally, when you're playing one full round, you would go through, and once everyone has done all of their decrees by flipping them over, and all players have gotten a chance to use each of their decrees, then the round is over. But I'll just skip over that to save some time. But it would look something like this. Once that is done, the first thing you do is you check if any players have lost. So we have here the laws of execution. If you are bankrupt, as in you have no gems to your name, you lose the game. If you have no decrees, as in you have no decrees that are face down or face up in front of you, you lose the game. And if you are powerless, as in you have no henchmen on the board, then you lose the game. Again, subordinates do not count as henchmen. Now, keep in mind that if you have 0 gems or no henchmen or no decrees before the end of the round, that doesn't mean you're immediately eliminated. It's only at the end of the round, once everyone has used all of their decrees, that you would be executed. So I can, for the entire round, have 0 gems, but right at the end, as long as I get 1, I'm solid. Next are the laws of coronation, or your win conditions. The first win condition is the true Rex stands alone. If you're the last player in the game because all of the others have been executed, you win. The true Rex displays control. If you have one henchman on 6 different territories on the board, like so, then you win the game. The true Rex dominates all. If you have 10 decrees to your name, for example, if the Pride here had 10 decrees, again, passives and subordinate cards don't count, but if you have 10 decrees all to your name, you win the game. The true Rex flows with riches. If you have 13 gems or more, you win the game. Now, should multiple players meet each of these win conditions, like for example, let's say the pack has all the gems, and this guy is the richest, this guy has the most decrees. What's the deal with that? Who wins? Well, you just check whoever has the most win conditions met. So let's say the Pride had 6 henchmen scattered across the board and 10 decrees, while the pack only had 13 gems. That's only 1 win condition. Since they have met 2, the Pride would win. Now let's say it's sort of like how it is now, where it's equal. They have 13 gems and they have 10 decrees. So who wins there? We can't have tied winners. So actually anyone who hasn't met a win condition at this point are just eliminated from the game. Of course, the herd here has 6 henchmen on their board, but let's just say they don't. So in this case, they have 13 gems, 13 or more gems. They have 10 or more decrees. They have not met a win condition. So these 2 would continue to the next round, and this player would be eliminated from the game. Now, in addition to those different laws of coronation, there's also some other special win conditions that some factions will have. Some factions will want all of their henchmen to be on one space. Some factions will actually want the game to progress all the way to, I believe, the 5th round, and once that happens, they win the game. So there are various different ways you can win the game, but besides those ones, if you have those special win condition cards. And at the end of the round, once everyone has done their different actions, you flip over all the cards, all of your decrees, reset for the new round, and then move the round tracker up and start the new business as usual. Now, in addition to that, there's also a variant of this game called the ink variant, because it's where you're playing with ink. Now, it hasn't been play tested at all, which is sort of why I'm making this video. I'll get to that again later. But once a player is eliminated from the game, in order to allow them to keep playing in a way, the first person to be eliminated gets to choose 1 player still in the game to become the ink chosen. And you give them what's called the ink crown. And if they win the game, then you and all other eliminated players from that point forward will also win the game. So you are heavily incentivized to help them out. You have different ink tokens that allow you to do different things, such as placing an ink token into a territory at the end of the business as usual. The entirety of that place gets flooded with ink, and all subordinates and henchmen on it are removed from the game. You may remove 1 gem from any player away from the game, flip any singular decree face down, remove one black market card from the black market from the game and place it, of course, or you simply do nothing. So yeah, that is the prototype for Rex of New Rivin. Now, the reason why I'm making this video is because I plan on kickstarting it, because it is a game, as you can tell, is much bigger than any of the other games I've made. So in order to make sure that I don't go even further down in the negative, I'm going to try kickstarting it because it's a big game, and if there's a big audience for it and they buy it, then perfect. And if there's not a big enough audience, then nothing lost on my end. But in general, I really think that this game has a lot of potential. And even 1.5 years later from when I made this prototype, I still really like all the ideas I put into this game, which is a great sign. So the main thing I want from this are playtesters. If you're interested in playtesting this game, I have a downloadable PDF in the description below or on my website, wherever you want to get it, and you can just print it out and play it. And if you could provide some feedback, especially on balance, given how asymmetric this game is, that would be hugely helpful. And another thing is each of these cards have a little bit of flavor text at the bottom. The flavor text is in a haiku format. Now, I think that it's really cool that that's the case. I like that that's how I did it. But the issue is I suck at counting syllables. I counted leopard as 4 syllables, even though it's only leopard 2. I guess I thought leopard or something like that. Leo, I kind of get leopard, but I don't know how I got the 4th syllable. I suck at counting syllables. If you could help with that as well, that'd be fantastic. And anyways, before I'm even going to set up this Kickstarter and get it out there, after some playtesting, of course. Before all of that, I'm also planning on kickstarting a different game called Eternal. That game is a lot simpler and will sort of help me test the waters on how Kickstarter works and help me understand the actual prices of shipping and things like that when I actually need to put the game out there. And thus far, I don't have many ideas for what I could put as reward tiers, but the main reward tiers that I'm thinking of right now are simply just getting the game and also postcards for the game that have the different artworks on them that hopefully are really nice and interesting. But if you have any ideas for different reward tiers, if you have any feedback on balance changes or any sort of array of different things, those would all be greatly helpful if you could just send them to me in some way, shape, or form. You can send them in the comments below. You can send them through Instagram and DM me or any other contact possible. But yeah, that's all. So thanks for watching.